Hello there, welcome to what I believe will be the final part of the Reverse Raj campaign in Hearts of Iron 4, where previously we were dealing with World War III, had plenty of invasions coming in, including India and the UK being on the target list. But we dealt with that. We then went around and took out a load of these smaller fronts in the war, destroying loads of allied troops. We're now focusing on 3 invasions. We're going for Sweden, Finland and Egypt. Here's a look at Egypt. We've now got just a single front down the Nile to take out, lots of impassable territory to the west, makes this particularly focused, and invisibly in the background we are absolutely spamming roads and railway tracks to this front line to keep these guys supplied, and I'm putting new ports down the coast. We're not quite in supply, but we're getting better and better, and soon we will be actually in supply on that front, which will be lovely. Our winter war in Finland is going very well actually, simply because the Finnish didn't have that many troops. They were in a standoff with the Soviets and have been for a long time. So suddenly showing up with an extra 20 plus divisions and just rushing along a small part of the front towards the opposite coast is going pretty well. Now after I zoom out, do you see the problem yet? Yes, there it is. We've got another infection to deal with. It just keeps happening. I really think we do need a gigantic thing that pops up and says somebody is naval invading you. It's really not as low priority a notification as things like base in low supply or enemy fleet spotted, which comes up in the same list and pollutes it. Anyway, I'll make my excuses. I just keep not noticing that stuff happening. But here's what I did notice as it was happening. There's an invasion happening in Burma. We can deploy some troops to help out with that one. We've got a few regular units hanging around India. I think they're on the way to somewhere else. And we've got a bunch of units that are still in training, going through the army exercises. But they'll be good enough. So we quickly deploy them down. I think it's New Zealand leading this attack. I figured New Zealand and Australia might at some point intervene. I think they're currently busy taking out all of our Indonesian and Micronesian territories, the stuff I'm just not looking at all in this campaign. We've lost loads of stuff. I'm pretending it's not happening because things are going so well elsewhere. Why be pessimistic? In Finland, here's an example of things going well. We're just pushing that line towards the coast, no problems. Still having to deal with more minor invasions in the UK though. There's one there near Wales and a big one up in Scotland to go for. It seems we've got a case of chronic allies with regular flare-ups here in the UK. Maybe it's something we ate. We'll have to just keep microing around. We could try and put troops around the coastlines and predict where they're going to land to stop the invasions. But I don't really have enough troops. I was content to just sort of wait in the middle if I could and then just go towards invasion points if and when I noticed them happening. The invasion of Burma is contained successfully, while the enemy have a nice pocket with ports in it as well. They don't have that many troops and we're going to be able to press them back towards those ports and take them out. Finland going absolutely swimmingly. We've conquered the main part of their territory with their capitals and cities in it, all looking good, and rapidly this war just comes to an end. There's the capitulation, and that means this army is going to go for an even more winterish war by moving further north to attack Sweden. That Finland war was actually over very quickly, went better than expected. The Sweden one though, I have the opposite situation where I expect this to go very well because I thought there's probably not much up here. Finland's only just capitulated, their border won't be well defended, we'll just storm on in, but that's not going to be the case. I also still haven't bothered finishing off the local resistance here in Finland, but maybe the Soviets will do it for me. In Egypt, I've set up an offensive line to move as far forward as possible without expanding our line too much. So we're going to move forward to the edge of the impassable bit of the desert basically and then see how the situation looks. On the western front, well, it's all quiet except for the cheeky naval invasion right behind our front line. That's dangerous. Noticed it relatively in good time. If they'd landed a whole bunch more troops there, that could have gotten quite bad. We can quickly move backwards from the front line and delete that enemy division, then someone can reclaim the territory. Handy. There is a worse invasion happening in the area as well though. I need to take more troops off the line to deal with this invasion of the Netherlands that's made a little bit more headway. Well, things are still looking pretty bad in the UK. We're constantly reclaiming territories and constantly losing them again. I think another naval invasion must have landed at some point recently. Looks like southwest England is in trouble. It's those cheeky Spanish up to no good again. Although this is actually kind of good for us if you think about it, because while it's annoying to deal with, closing out all of these naval invasions is costing us virtually nothing in terms of strength, but the Allies are losing loads of divisions because everything they land just dies after they get attacked. We've probably sapped their strength quite a lot over all of the various invasions. Here's the new Swedish front, where I had hoped there would be very little as mentioned, but actually this front ended up being more defended than the other front down south. There was loads of stuff up here, including loads of troops from other allied nations waiting around. So that made things a bit difficult and our advance immediately was halted. I've got a stack of 10 divisions you might have spotted just there, sitting in India training. I'm going to have an official 10 division reaction army that will wait in India in case Australia shows up basically. So we're actually going to prepare. We still have to notice the invasion, but we're much closer to avoiding any nasty surprises. We're nearly at our target line in Egypt, and we've nearly gotten rid of the latest flare-up of Allied-itis. Here's what I'm doing basically, giving tons of waypoint orders to have the armies drive around and gradually reclaim everything so I can then go and look at something else, and maybe by the time I look back at England, it will be okay. 1 month later, well, England is still in trouble. It got invaded again, looks like by one division cheekily reconquering our nuclear wasteland. We'll get on that and get it back. Becoming a repeating pattern though, and the risk is that one division can take a port and then they might send in 10 divisions or something, and we might not then be able to actually hold them off. So need to deal with stuff fast essentially. On our Norwedish front, we need to cut the enemy off, so I'm moving towards the opposite coast. This won't actually work as a proper cut-off, because the pocket to the northeast does have a port in it somewhere, I seem to remember finding out. But the idea was there. It looks good to have cut their territory in half. We're struggling to move, and these territories take a long time to move through, because we're still in like the coldest part of the war in the middle of winter. So far, no particular consequence for that has happened though. Good air superiority, that's probably helping out. In the hot part of the war, things are looking good. We're just set up on our chosen front line, not wanting to advance much more due to the widening of the front line that would entail. Still slapping down that infrastructure. We don't need it right now to stay in supply, but might as well have more. Always nice, speeds up movement at the very least. And it's something for the civilian factories to do. They are running out of more useful things to do. No point building more military factories or anything like that. Because I intended to just defend that location, I'm going to pull all of the tanks off that front and make this mini tank army. But I wasn't sure where to send it. I noticed that the fascist Allies conflict is heating up there in Italy and Greece. Looks like the Allies are making some progress. That's perfect. Whatever's going on there, it's all a distraction. We actually can't participate because we don't have military access with a lot of the fascists. I did try to get it, I seem to remember, but they always say no because of the I have a reason strategically to align against you thing that makes a lot of the diplomacy not possible. In the end, I'm just going to send the tanks up towards the Scandinavian area and see if they can help out. Time for a preemptive nuclear strike on the Isle of Man. That doesn't happen that often. It's because you can see the Allies are building up an invasion force right there. They're clearly planning to do something with it. So we just killed half of them. That will make our life easier. They're also invading right now up at the very top. We've got some guys walking over the mountains to go take a look at that. Our Scandinavian cutoff is complete, so that's something. We've got another invasion to deal with in the Netherlands, and again I have to take units off of our Maginot line to deal with this, but not very many, because we don't have very many, and if the French notice that they could attack us, they might. In this case, the few units I did send were enough. You might remember ages ago I mentioned there was a small Asian front in this war in Malaysia that I decided not to participate in because it looks like a supply trap. Well, it looks like it's going well. Our side is actually pushing. I'm going to credit myself for this because we just spammed in a load of planes to take air superiority, and they'll be doing the close air support thing and blowing up enemy stuff. We're even going to send in some more. We have quite a lot of planes at this stage because I just built like 5,000 to 10,000 fighters using all of our excess factories from our global empire, and there's not that much to do with them at this stage, so they're just all over the place. Looks like the UK has been invaded. Well, that's something new. Now we need to redeploy to attack up there. I even, as you can see, put some units on ports to try and strategically defend against invasions. at least make it so that if I didn't notice the invasion, the enemy wouldn't take a port early on. So we come up here to deal with this pocket. It's working, doing some more spirally waypoints, and then we get some good news. Sweden has capitulated. While I was microing that UK stuff, I had some of my armies up here just on offensive plan mode trying to push forwards. They took enough tiles to finally knock them out of the war, and that's that. Now we have to do the same thing to Norway, but it's going to be easier, of course, as we gradually begin to overwhelm the enemy numerically. Lots of annoying pockets are left over, so we've got a bit of a mess. We need to clear this up. Of course, if we attack these pockets, all those divisions will just die instantly. So a nice chance to weaken the enemy before they regroup and such, and otherwise we'll just push to the opposite coast of Norway. We've almost dealt with the most recent invasion of Scotland, but there's an invasion of Wales going on down there, so immediately need to redeploy. It would be really good if I had some more units. This just isn't enough divisions to defend all of the UK without doing tons of micro, which I guess is just what I have to do, because for whatever reason I didn't commit any more troops to defending this area. We defeated the North Wales invasion, then there was a South Wales invasion at pretty much the same time. There was a worrying sight. The French actually tried to push a little bit there on the front line, and you can see they have tons of troops. The enemy's strength is way higher than us. They're just not attacking, which is great, but we did see them try to attack for a second. With that in mind, I thought, well, I will see your Maginot Line and meet you there. We're going to throw up our own Maginot Line right in front of theirs, and we'll just sit in our fortified, massive lines of entrenchments and stare at each other. It's World War I time. We're just going to do this because I'm not very interested in pushing that front anyway. Not that we probably could, given how strong the French are. Before I finish dealing with the South Wales invasion, looks like there's a Northeast England invasion. They will not stop. I don't even know where these guys are coming from. I wish like the Soviet Union would just take naval supremacy or something. I could probably do it, but I don't want to. Against Norway, we're getting somewhere. We've made another cut-off there. And more good news of capitulation. Canada is finally out of the war, so the Confederacy took a very long time to bring them down. And as mentioned before, I feel like the UK probably had tons of armies there, and that's why it took so long, and also why we could take the UK. Great news, maybe the Confederates will do something else to annoy the Allies. We are making good progress against the remnants of Sweden and the soon-to-be dead Norway, who just don't have enough troops to stop us. Really just a case of walking into their territory. Looks like the UK got invaded. How does this keep happening? Again, it's Cornwall this time. The good news is that the entire country is being turned into a massive prisoner of war camp as we're constantly taking out these divisions and presumably taking their surrender. Maybe we're just killing them. Maybe UK is just a mass grave at this stage. According to the overall war, we're slightly winning, but only just. The Allies still have tons of stuff somewhere, which I guess makes sense because they keep sending it to the UK wherever it's coming from. We're certainly taking them down a notch though. And you might have spotted there, the Confederates have, for whatever reason, naval invaded the opposite side of Spain. I don't know where they were, but they've got here somewhere. Maybe they used the Italian territories nearby. That's great, because Spain was the #1 culprit for invading the UK. With them going to be out of the picture, things might get a little bit less hectic and micro-y. I think we're done in Malaysia as well, with our air war probably having contributed to victory. These planes really don't have anything to do, so I'm actually going to put them away, because you might notice we have barely any fuel. We actually came down to the point of just being a few days away from having no fuel whatsoever. So I actually need to stop doing things, and for the most part that's going to fall on my air force, because they're probably not doing very much anyway. We're going to keep the ground forces as in supply as possible, because we want to keep pushing. Literally, in some cases, as the tanks run out of fuel, I bet. Here we are bringing down Norway. They didn't put up too much of a fight because we could just attack them with overwhelming numbers and from every direction. We've got a couple of weeks left of fuel. We're about to have to stop our advance, but it should be enough to finish them off. After this, the game freezes. That's because something very good is happening. Boom, my secret plan all along when it comes to the French. I've been gradually setting up a communist coup in France, and we get a good one. A large part of their territory is lost and joins this new faction, which immediately joins the Reverse Raj Union. Meaning all of a sudden, We've done the ultimate counter Maginot strategy. A large part of the line has defected and now it's ours. We can immediately rush forwards to a new, unfortified front line, with the French army now gutted by how many of their troops defected to join our side. With this, the stalemate can be broken. Well, it wasn't really a stalemate, it was me hoping they don't notice they have a gigantic advantage, but they've now lost that gigantic advantage and things are going to turn around real fast because we're just going to attack them from millions of directions. We can swarm in more troops, and the Soviets are going to start sending troops down in this direction after the whole Scandinavia war cools down, meaning France is in enormous trouble, and we absolutely overwhelm them, quickly pushing them back to the coast with minimal resistance. Now we just need to finish the job, delete their armies, and that will be that. We've even got Paris in its own pocket to de-supply the enemy, although that was an accident because Paris just won't fall. So finishing these guys off won't necessarily end the war, but it's getting us there. It's plain to see Europe is going to be out the window for the Allies very soon, especially after we storm south and keep storming into Spain. They're already having to deal with the Americans attacking them from the south. It's going to be super easy for us to knock them out. That'll be another major power gone. The two armies that were up in Norway are now here pushing this front line, so we have loads of stuff. We're somehow in supply, probably because the Reverse Raj Union doesn't have that many troops that aren't mine, so our allies aren't ruining it for us too much. And here's some good news. I'm going down the fuel refining technology tree to get us out of the fuel crisis that's going away gradually now. All good stuff. Here's the general war situation. We're now officially winning, but still not by all that much. The enemy have a lot of stuff somewhere, apparently. La Plata is now the least capitulated enemy nation, and now we have to finally bother looking at South America to work out what's going on here, because this will be what we have to solve next. Somehow, we still have loads of territory. We're like at war along all of those borders, but no one's bothered to take it. Well, that's nice of them. Venezuela and Argentina jointly control most of the continent, with random patches of other stuff here and there. But helping us out will be the fact that the Confederates are at war with Venezuela, and they appear to have made an invasion and started taking their territory. So we need to get in on this soon enough. I'm also going to push down through Africa. We still have most of Africa under Allied control as it stands, but I think there's just nothing there, because like the border in front of me in Africa is completely undefended. We can just walk forwards with an offensive plan and start claiming this territory. It won't really matter, but it makes the map look better. Looks like the Allies have less of the world under their control. So we storm through there, Spain goes down. There are still various ally fascist war things going on that we're not going to participate in, but they'll probably be resolved in quote-unquote our favour, in that they'll be resolved in the fascists' favour. Now it's time to go to South America, and the situation is somehow even more weird looking than when I just looked at it a second ago. I think Venezuela exploded at some point, and we've actually got a lot of the territory because we claimed it in previous wars. It's gone back to being ours. Well, that's perfect. We now have loads of bases from which to invade the other countries, in particular Argentina, or whatever La Plata is supposed to be. Argentina might have confederated with someone else, not really sure because I don't know anything about South America. But we're going in there, we're just going to send hundreds of divisions to somehow take it. Going to be slow progress as usual. Here are the first divisions making some attacks, and they're almost certain to run out of supplies and just start dying the moment they step away from the coast. Just the traditional South America attack nightmare. I feel like maybe the game should treat at least some of the Amazonian rainforest as just being impassable like it does with bits of the desert, because I don't know if armies really would go all the way into the Amazonian interior just to claim territory. Well, anyway, we're going to do it right now. We've got various pockets, so we're going to try and push out and do what they can. Looks like we're already out of supply before the offensives are even beginning up there. That's all looking good. The main place where we'll make progress though is down in the bottom left as we strike into Argentina. Because there's nothing here, we can sweep through their territory and just claim tons of stuff, grabbing the ports on the opposite coast to make supply a bit better and pushing up towards the more developed regions. Meanwhile, we come down the coast of Brazil, again trying to focus on ports. Here was where most of the resistance was, so I had to do a lot of micro, and we even failed to make some attacks. Overall though, it was okay, and we're even somehow right here in supply. How is that happening? Nobody knows. I might have been spamming infrastructure here as well, I can't quite remember. Here's where things are essentially coming to a close as we push up towards the enemy capital. Minimal/no resistance in most cases. I feel like maybe the capitulation bar should take into account the balance of forces. So like here, Argentina should capitulate because we're at war with them and we have 10,000 times their army strength, so they should just consider that a reason to surrender. Instead of making me do this, having to actually walk across Argentina to enforce their surrender. Still got a lot of territory to walk across, but we've almost got them in terms of capitulation, just need more victory regions. And that happens shortly after this. In fact, immediately after this. It's peace treaty time. We finally won World War III. And of course, I've only got one real objective, and that is to do something to the United Kingdom. I'm now very conscious of the fact that because I can just take over the entire world, it's not especially fair, so I'm not going to be that exploitative in the peace treaty and take over everything, but what I am going to do is go through this massive list of all of the constituent nations of the British Empire and kick them out. We're going to split that empire into a billion pieces. All of the territories will get independence, apart from the UK, which gets special treatment, of course. I'm also going to do something similar to a lot of the other people in the peace conference. Essentially, we're just going to shatter this map. Let's create as many countries as possible. Here's a look at the world after the war then. Canada's still alive, just about, although they're now a puppet state of us. Would have been nicer to give them to the Confederacy, I guess, since they spent so much effort trying to take it, but I'm not really sure if the AI actually took anything after I did my peace stuff. I just selected the territories I wanted to affect and then left the rest with no decision made. I thought maybe the AI would come up with its own ideas, but I think nothing happened. So anyway, looking around the world, things are a little bit more vibrant than before. There are more factions. Looks like the French Commune still owns most of Africa, not too much we can do about that since they're on our side. And of course, we control most of the world as well, and we probably could do something about that, but I'm not going to. Here's our new crown jewel of the Reverse Raj Union's empire. We occupied England, but I decided to liberate out Wales, Scotland, and Northern Ireland as their own territories, although they're still puppets to us, of course. So this is the final shattering of the British Empire. The core English territories will just be part of India, the rest are just their own thing and are part of India's sphere of influence. That's the Reverse Raj challenge. Completed, I think. It was much harder than I thought it was going to be, mostly just because the game doesn't allow you to do certain things. But it has been achieved in the end, and we also won World War III along the way and kind of took over most of the world with our faction, albeit using cheats in some cases, so I don't think this is really much of an achievement. We'd still have to deal with the fascists, I expect, in this timeline, and perhaps even the Allies again. They still have plenty of territory. Here's an example of where I think the AI just didn't do anything at the peace conference, and somehow Sweden and Norway and Finland just got away without losing any territory despite being annihilated. Not really sure how it works. It's probably all screwed up because of mods, but whatever. We've achieved something, maybe, in this campaign. Well, perhaps you enjoyed watching whatever happened happen along the way. There is still actually a bit of war. We didn't quite achieve world peace, because there's a war between Poland and the fascists. Not quite sure what's going on there, but they're also justifying a war against the Union as well. Poland is getting very uppity. They want to fight the whole world. Perhaps they think they're Luxembourg or something. I don't think that's going to work for them. The last thing we'll do is look at this snapshot of the war situation to get an idea of the casualties. We don't have the miners selected here, but we can tell that it was the fascists who did most of the dying in this war, which is probably a good thing. We lost fewer than 1 million troops, despite our side losing like 15 or 16 million troops in general, and that will be because the Rome Protocols got absolutely annihilated. So of course did the Allies, but somehow less than the Rome Protocols. Maybe that's because of the minor factions being excluded here, because they had so many of those in their alliance. But all I wanted to say is that went pretty well, and India itself didn't lose that many troops compared to how many we have and the size of our population. It was good. It all worked. That's the conclusion. All you have to do is cheat. Most importantly, the player-led peace conferences thing. does seem overpowered. People had recommended it as just like a game improving or quality of life thing, but I think it's because the AI's normal peace conferences are just somewhat insane. So you're supposed to take this cheat mod, but then be a little bit honest with it and give the AI factions things you do think they should have got in the war. Something, something, something. Seems like that's open to corruption. Oh well. At least the world is now controlled by an alliance bound together only by the fact that they wanted to conquer the United Kingdom, which has now happened, so it's probably going to fall apart and a massive World War IV is about to start. We'll just leave before any of that goes down. Next I'll be playing Imperator Rome, coming very soon.
Santa